get cozy, perhaps. We have a few more people than we anticipated. I think that just dropped in. You could just add chairs, yeah, to the side here, but there should be more than enough room, inshallah. Well, both these tables will be for the sisters, inshallah. Okay, perfect. Bismillah ar-Rahman. Oh, sure. Abdul Aziz, last name is Sardar. Sardar, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the best for all of us in life and hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant for you all what you wish, and grant success for you in this life and hereafter. And alhamdulillah, this is one of the sessions that we bring in for the younger professional in order to excel in their career and their life. And that's really important. As Muslims, we looking for the upper hand. The upper hand, that's more important. That give you a strength. وَالْمُؤْمِنُ الْقَوِيُّ خَيْرٌ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَمِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِ الضَّعِيفِ. So inshallah, this is what means to get a higher level bidnai subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's really important, especially in this society and in these days. This is one of the sessions, inshallah, expecting more, especially if you really get benefit of that and get a good, get good feedback from you. We are happy to start more and more. Last week we had the session for the RCMP for those they're looking for as a career, and mashallah was well attended, and we get really a great feedback from that, and that's something we are happy about. A few months ago we had the training for the Lincoln, and alhamdulillah as well we had the good feedback about it. And there are many things that we're thinking of it, and inshallah we'll do our best to bring it forward to you, bidnai subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you have any idea, please come forward. And this is started from the idea from this man, Zallah Khairan. He came forward and we said, we are here just to support you. So we are not doing much, just here to support you for whatever you want. And maybe one of you come, with the idea that could benefit others, please, will come. So let's we'll leave you with brother Faisal and brother Abdul Aziz Sardar, and inshallah you will have a beneficial time. May Allah bless you all. Bismillah.
Sheikh, so can everybody hear us in the back? Good? Perfect. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So first of all, we'd like to thank you all for being here. We kind of threw this out on social media, like Fazal sort of ideated this concept of why don't we do a workshop so that we can help sort of the members in the community to sort of build up their capacity to develop a good, compelling job application. As a little story, Fazal and I, how we know each other, we actually met during our masters with some people who I actually see in the room sitting in the back. And it was after our masters where we sort of went on this journey of looking for a job, like I'm sure many of you here. And it was along that journey where we had a lot of difficulties. Number one, figuring out whether we had the right application, whether our resume was okay, getting rejected from lots of jobs, which I'm sure is probably a very top of mind experience for many of us. But inshallah, may Allah make it easy for us all to sort of go through that process really well. So the idea behind this workshop today is to lend you some of the experience that we have sort of developed through the scars that we have from going through the job application and recruitment process. And hopefully by the end of this sort of session, inshallah, today, you'll have a better idea of how you can really develop your resume into something that allows you to stand out, so that recruiters are able to sort of identify the skills and abilities that they're looking for, and hope that you are seen as a fit for the organization. We know that it's a competitive time to be finding a job. It's not easy. We also know that resources are thin, especially for many of us that are new to Canada, that are here as international students. And inshallah, whatever we can do to sort of make that easier, that's what we're here to do. Maybe I'll let Fazl sort of intro himself as well, and I'll throw a picture of us up on the screen to make us look a little bit more professional.
Thank you so much, Abdulaziz, for that. So, first of all, welcome everyone. We're so happy to see so many of you, especially even though we had rain outside, but so happy to see all of you. First of all those who are sitting in the back, we have some papers over here. If anyone needs to make notes, we have pen and paper available. So please grab that if you need one. Other than that, so I'll just introduce myself and then pass the mic on to Abdulaziz. So my name is Fazl. I started my career in Deloitte. I worked in India for 3 years and then moved to Canada in 2021 September as an international student. So I feel a lot of things that I'm going to cover today are my personal experiences. So I'm just going to try to share some of that. And currently I'm working as a data analyst at McCain Foods. Abdulaziz.
Perfect. Yeah. So maybe I'll tell a little bit about Fazl. Fazl did the business analytics program at Ivy Business School, which was a master's program, which is where we went, like I mentioned earlier. So my name is Abdulaziz. I am an innovation consultant at Disruptive Edge. Disruptive Edge is a consultancy based out of Toronto. We work with large organizations to help them develop new products, services, and business models. So we've worked with large organizations like, for example, Walmart, Cadillac Fairview, RBC, some of the bigger companies in Canada, and also some large organizations around the world, in the US, in the Middle East, and so on and so forth. So some of my background and experience is I did my undergrad here at Western University, like I heard some of you guys have. So I'm a London local. I'm more or less raised here my entire life. After my undergrad at Western in finance, I worked at Bell, which is a telecommunication company. Some of you guys might have really high internet bills from Bell. So yeah, that was me, unfortunately, at a given point in time, or maybe cell phones. And after that, I worked in finance, which was my field. And then after that, I did my master's at Ivy Business School with Fazl, and now currently work in consulting. So that's sort of a bit of the journey that I had going from undergrad all the way into where I am right now. So let's get down to sort of why we're here. Oh, perfect. So I want to ask a couple questions, and I'll stand up, and I want to make this a little interactive, because I want to engage you all and make sure that you guys all feel like this isn't just us sitting behind a table and talking to you about what a resume is. Raise of hands. Who here has a resume that they've already made? I want to see a raise of hands. Yeah? Okay. It's not perfect, and it never will be. All right? It's a work in progress, and even as someone who has a job currently, I'll let you know right now, once I look at my resume, I'm like, wow, how did I get this job with this resume? It doesn't truly reflect, my skills and my abilities. And you'll always see a resume that you think is better. So no resume is always going to be perfect. It's always going to be a work in progress. And part of the reason is, sure, yeah. Weren't required, but it was a suggestion. But if you don't have it with you, it's completely fine. Other than maybe scribbling notes into your resume as it currently stands to sort of be like, okay, here I can improve this, or I can change that, or here's how I might adjust my resume based on the workshop, it's not a big deal. We'll be sharing, inshallah, just as a sort of point of information, the entire presentation with you at the end of this presentation. So don't feel like you have to capture and write notes on every little point in detail that we have. We'll share this with you along with some resources, like templates of resumes that we think are good, like some other resources like action verbs that you can use to sort of make your bullet points a lot more comprehensive.
So if somebody, let's say even after, so do you have
Yeah, so we have a QR code we're going to show on the screen at the end of the presentation. Once you scan that QR code at the end of the presentation and give us feedback on, whether you liked or didn't like the workshop that we did today, then we'll be able to have your email and then we can share that, inshallah, with you at the end of the presentation. Sound good? Perfect. Okay, so what is a resume? A resume is essentially a snapshot of your professional qualifications, right, as they relate to the job that you're applying to. And that's an important distinction. You can have a general resume, but if you take the same general resume and you apply it to every single job that you apply to, even with the differences that exist in each job, do you think you're going to have as much success? Or do you think you're going to be more successful if every single version of the resume you have is tailored specific to the job posting that you're applying to? Which one? Is it number one, where it's generic and I just sort of throw it at every single job, I don't really adjust it? Or is it number two, where it's sort of like adjusted to every single resume? Go ahead. Exactly, and we'll get into that a little bit. You're ahead of us. So there are these things called ATS softwares, which basically are a software which actually reads your resume before a recruiter does. And we'll get a little bit into more detail about that. But essentially, the reason why you need a resume is because you need to build a compelling case for the recruiter as to why you are a better fit than anybody else for this particular role. So think about it this way. On average, right, for each role that gets posted out there, there are between 100 to 200 people in Canada applying to that job. So you need to be able to stand out, right, to be able to tell the recruiter, I'm the best person for this role, and here's why. And the resume is one part of it. Cover letter is the second part of it, and I'll let Fazal get into that a little bit more in the second part of this presentation. But can we all agree that a resume is extremely important and that you need one to build a compelling case? Go ahead. Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you for agreeing with me. I also want to make another statement, which is that a resume isn't just a piece of paper. In the modern digital age, a resume is every single thing that's online as it relates to you. So that's your social media if it's public. That's your LinkedIn profile if you have one. That's any sort of publications that you might have, right? Let's say you've participated in a journal through school, or let's say you had an article that was published on the London Free Press or on the Globe and Mail, or whether it was through your university newsletter. Anything online where you can Google yourself and find is a part of your digital footprint, and therefore likely a part of your resume, because a recruiter, if you make it through into the recruitment process, the first thing they're probably going to do is Google you. So what I would say as a suggestion is go ahead and Google yourself first, and maybe get rid of anything unwanted that you might have online that might be a hindrance to the recruitment process when you move forward. Perfect. There are three main qualities that a recruiter is trying to assess through your resume and through your job application. Okay? Those three main qualities are, number one, your character, which is really difficult if you think about it to assess just through someone's resume, right? Is this person trustworthy? Are they honest? Resumes don't do a very good job at sort of highlighting these. What they do is a really good job of is competence and commitment. Resumes are great at calling out what you're good at, what you're capable of doing, and whether or not you are someone that commits to a role. How do they do that? Competence, you are giving them information about your education, your work experience. You're telling them about specific skills that you have with softwares, with technical skills that you have, soft skills that you have, right? Whether you know Python or whether you can do financial modeling. And they're also going to be able to see this important part, which a lot of people don't realize is being measured, which is commitment. Have you been at an organization for a long enough period of time? Or are you someone who just jumps jobs? Are you in that role for 6 months and then you say, you know what, I'm not really feeling it, I'll do something else? Or are you the type of person who stayed in a role for a year or two and then got promoted? That makes a big difference to a recruiter when they're taking a look at your resume. And so what I want to understand is that when it comes to the resume specifically, resumes are really good at this and not as good as this, But this is sort of what comes out later in the interview process. When they interview and they ask you, so tell me about yourself. And they ask you, if you were in this situation, what would you do? That's them trying to understand, what is your judgment like, right? What virtues do you have? Or when they do a reference check and they ask your previous employer, tell me a little bit about Mohammad or Ali or Fatima, right? They're going to ask you these questions to people that you know, and they're going to get a better understanding of, is this a trustworthy person? Are they someone that shows up to work on time and gets their work done at a reasonable, you know what I mean, like level, or are they not? And just to let you guys know that we listened, so just a quick question, who pre-registered for this event and is here today? Raise of hands. Yeah, did the registration, who you filled out the form? Okay, perfect. So we just want to let you know that that's super valuable for us because it allows us to tailor the content of this presentation. And for that reason, we're going to be discussing sort of in a bit more detail. Number one, resume formatting. So how should you format your resume? Number two, content writing. How do you make sure all your bullet points are super impactful, where you're able to communicate at a level that recruiters are able to see what the impact was you had in a role or an organization, quantifying that whenever possible. And the third one, which mentioned earlier, ATS optimization. At the end of the day, the first person that's going to take a look at your resume is not a person at all. Go ahead. It was shared, I believe, on the London Muslim Law's page and WhatsApp. But if you haven't registered, that's okay. We have a form at the end that you can fill out, and we'll be able to sort of get your information, inshallah. Go ahead. So the first thing that they're going to see is essentially, and so we'll talk about this in a little bit, but basically what happens when you apply for a job, that job application is typically digital. So what's happening is they basically have an ATS software that's going to look for keywords. And if those keywords are there, you'll make it to the second round, which is essentially you get to speak to a human being, right? And this is a general sort of for most large organizations out there. So the most important thing that we would say is your resume optimized to get you through that first barrier, which is the ATS software? Once you get past that stage, it's going to be about soft skills, interview, how did you show up, right? When they ask you questions, if they, you know, for example, you said, I know financial modeling, right? And they ask you a question that's very basic related to financial modeling. Can you answer that question? Well, that comes down the road. The most important thing early on is, do you have the keywords and do you have the qualifications as the job description wrote it out? So how well do you match the sort of description that they've given of the person that they're looking for is the most important thing. Does that answer your question? Yeah? So here's a question for you. What percentage of Fortune 500 companies use ATS as a part of their recruitment process? And again, ATS is that computer software. Just raise your hand. And yeah, go ahead. 100%. So there's not a single company out there that doesn't use the ATS software. Everyone's using it. Anyone else who doesn't want to be as, you know, as high out there, 100%? Any other answer will probably suffice. Go ahead. 90%?
People nowadays are lazy.
For sure.
As you said, you have more than 200 applicants.
Exactly.
And get the important CVs, then you can.
Exactly, right? So it's a huge challenge. You have 200, 300 applicants. Are you going to interview all these people with 15-minute interviews? No company has the resources to do that. So, I mean, it isn't quite 100%, but it's 97%, which between 97 to 99. Or are you raising your hand to answer the question? Thank you so much. It's 97%. So it's between 97 and 99, depending on what surveys you read, but it's a really high number and 100% is close enough, and it might as well be. But it also means 70% of large companies, so not quite Fortune 500, but large organizations, and about 20% of small and medium-sized businesses, which is surprising. Because if you think about it, you think about a small business, you know, whether it's a mom and pop shop or some place with 10, 15, 20 employees, there's about a 1 in 5 chance that if you apply to one of those places that has 20, 30, 40 employees, you are going through an ATS system, right? Which means that you need to make sure that your resume is optimized to get you through this initial hurdle. But it's a good stat to know. Also, interesting to note that 75% of job applications fail the ATS and are never seen by a human eye. Simply because you did not have the keywords. You did not have the basic level of information on there for them to say, okay, yeah, this person has that first green check mark. We're willing to even move them through. So 75% don't even get seen by a real person, which, you know what, if you're getting rejected from jobs as often as I was, is really good way for you to not take it personally because the person didn't even see it, right? It was just a software. So just to answer that first question, go ahead. No, I wouldn't. I would say that it's a disadvantage if you don't know how to optimize your resume to get past the ATS. Because at the end of the day, they are still looking for an applicant. They just want to see who's gone through the process of making sure that those keywords are present in their resume, right? So getting past the ATS system is not impossible. It's actually quite doable. And there's a couple, quick tips and tricks that we want to share with you that will allow you to sort of get through that process. And then we'll also actually later on demo you how we would go about finding keywords and actually putting them into your resume using ChatGPT. So raise of hand, who here knows what ChatGPT is? Yeah? Maybe a better question is who doesn't, right? And who's using it for work and who's not, right? Or for schoolwork. So number one, using the right file type. This is like table stakes information. But if you are not using the right file type, there's a good chance that the software is not going to pick up your resume. So typically this means using a PDF file, but if unspecified, and most people don't, if unspecified, file is actually a Word file. So submitting your resume in a Word file is going to make it as easy as possible for the ATS software system to pick it up and be able to read your information. Yeah, so a lot of, I can even, yeah.
Word format.
Yeah, so based on, so unless it's specified specifically for you to give a PDF, Word file is typically going to be the best bet for you as it's going to be easy for the software to pick that up. But that's a great question. And number two, it's getting your formatting right? Go ahead. You can ask a question. I'll repeat it for the audience through my mic as well. Go ahead. For sure. 100%. So the second point is actually getting your formatting right, which I think speaks directly to the point that the brother made, which is that even if you do get past the ATS, let's say your resume is in a format that is super difficult to understand and read. Once it goes into a person's hand, it's also going to be unusual for them to scan. And I think maybe we've all seen resumes that are super creative and abstract, and the information is in like boxes here and there, and they have shapes all over the place. It's a good way to set yourself up, for failure, just because an ATS software, number one, is likely not going to be able to make sense of the information in the way that it's being displayed. But second of all, a person is not going to really be able to scan that in the 7 to 9 seconds that they're scanning one of 300 resumes, and they might just decide, you know what, I'm not even going to bother, right? Especially depending on the level of professionalism or the sort of professional field you're applying to. So for example, if you're applying to business consulting, for example, there's a certain standardized type of resume that they're looking for, which sort of indicates the professionalism that they're looking for in the candidate. And if you've got all this creative stuff going on in your resume, number one, the ATS is probably not going to be able to pick it up easily, but also they might just look at it and say, who is this guy? And what's he applying to a job here for? So formatting is super important. Simple, easy to use templates are your best friend if you're applying to a very standard, typical professional job. It's going to make the ATS's job a lot easier. It's going to make your recruiter's job a lot more easier to be able to understand the experience that you have and why you're a good fit. Taking out things that hinder that, for example, images, right, inside of a resume. A picture of yourself. I know you guys would love to send a resume out that has a nice, beautiful headshot of yourself standing there with your suit on. I'm sure you guys look beautiful, but it's going to make the ATS's job a lot more difficult to read the information in that resume. So just do yourself a favor and leave it out. Or if you have a graph of the net income of the company you worked with because you were working with them, right, for whatever reason, leave that out as well. It's just, I would say, exactly. You're a valuable asset to your company, but just sort of show that in a different way. And the last thing is optimizing with keywords, and this has came up a couple times, but making sure that the keywords that need to be there as per the job description are in your resume so that when the recruiter is asking the ATS, find me resumes that have skill 1, 2, 3, 4, right? It's able to pick that up really quickly. So that was a bit lengthy, but really just wanted to sort of zoom in and make sure that the importance of optimizing your resume for ATS is met because it's a big part of the modern day recruitment process. This is a heavy slide, and we'll share this out again like I mentioned later, but basically this is our suggested approach to writing a resume. It's how we would recommend you go about it if you don't have a resume already, but if you do, then you can basically start at step 3. If you're starting from scratch, you'd start at step 1, which is basically gathering information. That's information about yourself, right? The work that you've done at the place that you've been working right now or in the past. A lot of us don't collect our stories and we don't write down the impact that we've had, which makes it difficult for us when it comes to recruitment process, right? To be able to sort of put that experience into words. And I know that most of us, when we're in a job, we're not necessarily thinking about the next job, but it's great to, over time, as you accomplish things, edit your resume a little bit. Add a bullet point in, right? Have an active live document resume where as you're doing cool projects and cool things at the organization, you're adding that to your resume so that you're not sitting there 2 months after being in your role trying to think about what happened, you know what I mean, like 16 months ago. Wait, what did I do again? What was the project? What was the scope of it? No, you have that all written down, and that's a great place to start. You also want to start gathering information about the types of roles that you want to apply to. You see an interesting job posting, save it, right? Save the link, that's great, but if the job posting goes down, what you want to have done is saved a PDF version or something similar of that particular job posting, because that's going to give you more and more data about skills that apply not only to that particular employer, but trends that might apply across the board. So if one particular employer, uses a software and you see that employer 3, 5, 7, right? Most employers like that, then that might be the skill that you want to highlight and call out on your particular resume. So number 1, gathering information. Number 2 is building an outline. So if you don't have a resume already, you want to make sure that you have the sections of your resume clearly visible in the way that most organizations are going to want to see them. So for example, you don't want to call education places where I have learned. Because, that's great, but at the end of the day, education is going to be the easiest way, most readily sort of standardized way that organizations call that out, right? You also, for example, work experience and skills, try to use industry standard language for all these headers and for all the information that you're providing it. Number 3, content development, right? Building out your bullet points for your work experience, or building out all the projects that you've done. What did you do? And using things like, for example, CAR or ACR statements, right? Action, context, result, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But how do you actually write the bullet points in your resume to have the most impact and to call out the hard work that you've done? And the 4th thing is actually optimization, which is kind of now optimizing that particular resume for a particular job. You might have a resume that's good, industry generic. Well, you can, if someone is like, hey, let me take a look at your resume, you can give them that generic version. But if you're applying to a specific job, you want to make sure that you have optimized that resume to the job description, to the company itself that you're applying to, and made sure that when they are looking for those keywords, those exist, right? And the last thing is formatting and review. One of the biggest reasons why people are not selected for employment, or one of the biggest sort of mistakes that are made, is actually grammar, is actually spelling being incorrect, right? Punctuation being not there. table stakes, little things like that that are like you need to have just taken a look at and QA'd. And I know, and I'm guilty of this myself, you know, the job posting closes at midnight and it's 10 o'clock p.m. and you're just like, let me get this done really quickly so I can submit it. And you forget to read it over one last time. You're so tired that you forget to. This is super important. And this is a place where tools like ChatGPT come really handy, because you can just throw your PDF into ChatGPT and say, hey, check the grammar here, right? And it'll do it for you, which is really great. And I use that for work a lot. So don't tell anybody that, but with ChatGPT is a fantastic tool. And then apply. Right, apply to the job. I mean, I've forgotten to do this a couple of times too. You know, you make the resume, you spend all that time, you know what I mean? Tailoring, don't forget to apply to the job itself, you know what I mean? This is to myself before anybody else. And then again, like we mentioned earlier, your resume continuously evolves. So you're continuously working and building out your resume, right, to make sure that it's capturing all that information as you're continuously doing that. Any questions here so far based on the information that I've given you guys? Go ahead. So the question that the brother asked is, when you're building out your resume, is it good to call out when you began that work experience and when you ended, so dates? And the answer is yes, because that's going to sort of speak to what we spoke about earlier, which is commitment. You want to show future employers how long you were at the organization you were at. Now, there is a sort of exception there, which is if you weren't at an organization for a very long time, how do you do that? Or do you call out the specific dates, like, right, like, oh, January 31st, 2024? Or do you keep it a bit more general? I say April 2024. My personal suggestion is use the month and use the year, leave out the date, right? And if it's something that's quite a bit in the past, you can sometimes make your work experience like, you know, not like look a bit longer by just using years, right? If the work experience is a long time ago, instead of doing the math and saying, well, it was April and then I ended off, you could just say 2024, or sorry, let's say 1995, let's say you're an older head, all the way till 2005. You can, you know, 10 years is quite visible there. No one's gonna ask, was that April or was that June, or you know what I mean? Don't bother adding all that detail in. But it is important to add the sort of month and year so that people know how long you were at the company so they can see the commitment you had. And if you got promoted within that time, make sure you call out how long you were in your first role for, and then how long you were in your second role for, right? Inshallah, we all are really good at our jobs, and we're able to sort of, you know, get promoted really quickly. You want to show how quickly you got promoted, right? 6 months in, a year and a half in, inshallah, we're getting promoted into the next phase of our jobs. And so you want to call that out and show, hey, after, you know, 16 months, I got promoted into a higher role. And you want to call that out. So that's a great question. All right, I'll move on quickly. I know Fazl's got a lot of content he wants to cover too. If you're building a resume from scratch, start with the job description of the role that you're applying to. It's very important, because that's going to give you very important information and data. Like, for example, you have a clear understanding of what the job entails. So you know, what's being required of this person, right? Is it just data entry? Are they, you know what I mean? What are they doing in that team? Go ahead. Sorry? Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So the question is, you know, the brother asked was, thank you for that, was if I'm optimizing my resume for an ATS system, how many keywords do I need? So I wouldn't say that there's a maximum, right? I'm not going to say there's a minimum. What I'm going to say is when you're doing the research on the jobs, you are going to be able to see which, you know, skills, abilities, and sort of, you know, keywords stand out. And a good way to do that actually is to take each job description and start highlighting technical skills, soft skills that are being required, and keywords that are repeated in different job descriptions. Those are going to be the keywords that you want to include in the resume, right, as you're building it. But I mean, I would say it's better to sort of have enough, right? So, you know, have a threshold, but basically don't just throw every single word from the job description into your resume and hope that, you know what I mean, you're going to have enough keywords in there for you to get the job. You know, and feel free to push back on that, because I know we have some really educated people in audience here, have you had experience with that in the past? Go ahead. Sure. Exactly. So if you are, have access to the internet, you have a computer, there are AI tools out there that you can use where you drop in the job description, and it will tell you, from this job description, here are the keywords, here are the technical. They'll even break it down even further. They'll say, here are the technical keywords, here are the soft skills that are being called out, here are things that are being repeated or being emphasized, and you can use that information to then, iterate your resume and make sure that those are being called out. And you do that with, 1 or 2 or 3. The more resumes the more sort of job descriptions you use, the more data you have to play with onto what you should be including in there. So I would say better to have more than less, but don't go overboard. Don't just have a resume full of buzzwords and technical jargon if you can't back it up with your actual work experience. So that's a great question. I would say use ChatGPT to your advantage. It's a tool, but at the same time, don't sort of say, okay, ChatGPT wrote this for me, that's it. At the end of the day, like for example, my experience using ChatGPT has been, ChatGPT will write something very, very formal, very technical, and you can tell that ChatGPT wrote it, and you can tell it wasn't written by a human, which is not necessarily a good thing depending on the role that you're jumping into, right? So use it as a tool, help it get you to a good point, and then from there, put things in your own words, right? Iterate it a little bit and optimize that resume and that sentence so it actually sounds like something that you might say, right? You also don't want it to come across as ChatGPT wrote this entire resume, because then you might as well just put the name on the top, ChatGPT, right? Great. So and so basically what you also want to be able to do in this point in time, listen guys, at the end of the day, I know we all want to get a job, and I know that it's important, but I also want you to know that it's important for you to want to get into that role. Don't just try to hack yourself into a role that you're not going to enjoy or not going to suffer. So when you're going through this process of building a resume, ask yourself, am I a good fit for this role? Like, is this somewhere I would actually want, to work? And do I actually feel like I'm a good fit for this? Because I know people, and I've heard stories where people have basically, got themselves into a role where they really weren't qualified, but they had an amazing resume, they interviewed really well, and then they suffered because they weren't actually a good fit for the role, but they were really good at getting a job. So there's also the other side. So make sure that when you're going through the sort of recruitment process, that as you're understanding job descriptions, ask yourself, is this something I actually want to do? And if it's not, maybe it's time to step back and start asking yourself, well, what roles are actually going to interest me, or am I sort of positioned to actually be getting? Sure. There are, yeah. Actually, so I forget the exact name, but if you want, we can actually share some recommended AI tools with you as part of the resources, if that helps as well. ChatGPT does a really good job. You can actually take the entire job description, and we'll show you a demo of what that looks like, right? Where you actually take the job description, put it into ChatGPT, and ask it, give me the keywords from this resume that I can use to optimize my resume for an ATS software. And we'll actually provide you with prompts that are going to allow you to do that really easily. So all you do is you put the prompt in, which is basically how you ask ChatGPT to do things, put the job description, and it'll give you those keywords that you can then use to iterate your resume. There are 5 typical core sections of a resume. Now, these might change depending on what industry you're in, right? And you might have additional sort of components to your resume like languages, certifications, and projects. But typically speaking, this is how your resume is going to be broken down. You're going to have contact information up top, which is essentially your name, you know what I mean? Your email address, your phone number. I want to emphasize here, really importantly, that you should not be putting your full home address on your resume in your contact information bucket. There's no need for an employer to know your entire home address. It's more than enough for you to put the city and the province that you reside in. That's very important information. Phone number and emails is really good, and LinkedIn is also really good to have. I think I have another slide here where I think I go into a bit more detail. No, we took it out. Okay, no worries. So yeah, so home address, something you definitely want to have. LinkedIn is great to have. It's a professional platform that you can use as your virtual resume, so it's great to link that in. It's a very nice to have, but a must-have is definitely your name, your phone number, and your email. Nice to have is a LinkedIn, or if you have a website, you know what I mean? What's your name, for example? Malik Shahbar, for example, malikshahbar.com, right? Where Malik has his entire virtual resume online. Some people do that, right? They have their entire resume online, like a virtual resume. Sorry? Exactly, and portfolio, projects that you've worked on, right? Stuff you did in school or stuff you did outside of school. You can put those up there. If you're a UX UI designer, I've seen a lot of people do their designs that they've worked on and websites and prototypes that they've built. That's great to have online because it makes it really easy for a recruiter to sort of be able to see the work that you've done. Go ahead. No, so I would not give a recommendation to have your Instagram and Facebook on your resume. Those are personal. Those are not professional networking sites. Go ahead. Yeah. So one thing you can do if you have a PDF, which is something that I do, is you basically hyperlink the word itself, right? It's something you can do. A QR code I would personally avoid, right? That's just my own preference. But yeah, I would avoid using the entire URL there as well. But hyperlinks work really well because then when you download that PDF and you send it, people can actually still click that hyperlink and then go to your LinkedIn. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But this is going to get you past that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the ATS doesn't really care about your LinkedIn as much, right? But this is more for the recruiter and their ability to sort of click on that once they're seeing the resume. So it's kind of like that next step forward. Yeah. Great question, by the way. Thank you so much for that. Any other questions here before I move on? I would, unless it's, if it's relevant to the job you're applying to. Right. Then that's great. Then that's fantastic, right? Because if it's relevant to the job you're applying to, that's fantastic. Yeah, so basically keywords you're going to want to sort of massage into almost every aspect. So for example, keywords are going to show up in professional summary because you're going to have in your description of what you do as a professional summary of who you are, you're going to want to call out that you are a good fit for the role. And so let's say the job description is asking for someone who's an expert marketer. You might want to call yourself an expert marketer. Right? Have that in your professional summary. That way you call that out really easily for them to understand and hit those keywords. It's also going to show up in skills, right? Because in the job description, it's going to say, we need someone who can do Python and, you know what I mean? Like use these libraries. Then you're going to want to include that in your skills if you can do it. Right? I'm not advocating for you to put things in your resume that you have not done. So this is as a caveat, don't try to hack it to the point where you have things in your resume that you haven't done completely. If it is relevant to the job and you are capable of doing that, you have that experience, add it. But that's a great question. So yeah, basically you're going to want to massage in keywords and relevant sort of job items into almost every aspect of the resume, just not contact information. Don't change your name to expert marketer. They're going to want to know your real name on that one. But it'll also show up, for example, in projects, right, where you can call out, hey, I worked on this project, I built this particular tool, and I used these couple softwares that they were looking for, right? In certifications, it might be they're looking for someone who can do financial modeling. Maybe you have a financial modeling certification. You call that out here as well, right? So just try to make it super relevant to the job that you're applying to. This is a great way for you to actually build out your bullet points. One of the biggest things that I suffered and sort of had, it was a challenge for me when I was going from school into the workplace was writing out my bullet points in a way that demonstrated the impact I had at the organization. And the best advice that I got when it came to this was always quantify and qualify the experience you have. What does that mean? Use numbers wherever you can. Increased sales revenue by 40%, right? Market reach by 60%, or reached X amount of people over X amount of period of time. Whatever is relevant to your job. Always give numbers to the impact of what you did to demonstrate the result of the work. And the best way to do that is using the ACR system, also called the CAR system, depending on sort of the resource you're looking at. It's either ACR or CAR. I prefer to call it ACR because the action comes first. A lot of other people will call it the CAR, challenge, action, result. But the issue is that you want to start off with an action verb. You want to start off with what you did, facilitated, increased, collaborated, right? All these action words which are going to imply the work that you did, that's what you want to start off with. So basically the three components are this. Number one, action. What action did you take, right? What did you actually do as in this particular role, right? What was the challenge? What was the sort of thing that you were trying to accomplish? So for action, for example, I developed and executed a nationwide marketing campaign focused on influencer partnerships, right? That's what you did. This is the action that you took. You developed and executed. Those are action words. You want to be able to basically use action words. And by the way, we've given you guys a PDF of action words across various categories that you can use to insert into your resumes. And we'll share that out as a resource at the end as well. The challenge, what's the context here? Right? You developed and executed a nationwide marketing campaign. Why? Why was that necessary? Right? What's the context there? What was the challenge or the problem you were trying to solve? To address an underperforming market launch suffering from lack of awareness. You're speaking to the problem or the challenge for which you were doing the action. And last but not least, and this is the most important part in my opinion, what was the actual impact? So what? You did that, okay, great. Was it successful? Yeah, it was actually. We boosted product recognition by 40% and increased sales by 30% within the first quarter after campaign. Wow, good for you. Congratulations, right? That's a great achievement. Make sure that's there, because if that's not there, it's just kind of like, okay, it's good. So what, right? And always ask yourself what, like, so what? What did you accomplish? That's a great way for you to end off and ask yourself that question at the end of building your resume. What was the result? Are we looking for time? Speed up? Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I like to talk. Okay. So basically, this is just a high level. We talked about this a little bit, so I'll skip over it real quickly. It's how do we actually optimize your resume for job-specific keywords? Number one, read the actual entire job description, right? Seems pretty standard, but people don't do this, right? They don't read the entire thing. Highlight the action verbs. Take a highlighter. I mean, if it's a piece of paper, you need to print it out, but it's digital these days. So just go over and sort of, you know what I mean? Underline with your mouse, or I don't know, like copy and paste into a document, right? And then highlight. What are the key action verbs here? What are the technical skills and qualifications? What are the soft skills and jargon? And then call those out strategically, like we mentioned. Yeah, so that's basically what we're going to cover in terms of resume. Now, at the end of this period, write down your questions, and we'll have a Q&A period where we'll be able to sort of answer some questions specifically you might have with regards to your resume. We'll also potentially in the future open ourselves up to some one-on-one time where you can book time with us, and we'll sort of do a cover letter and resume review to help you out and say, okay, let's take a look at your resume and how can we basically spruce this up and make this a little better. But hopefully, with some of the tools and tips we provided you, you're well on your way to sort of a good resume. I'll pass it on to Fazal to sort of take it from here.
Okay, so I think Jazakallah Abdulaziz for that. I think he covered a lot of points that even I didn't know. So I think I have to work on my resume again now that I go back. First of all, am I audible? Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fazal for all those who joined us later. So I'm going to talk about cover letter. Now this is the most frustrating document that you have to send. So you've done your resume, you've added everything to it, and now you have to write a whole cover letter again. And one of the biggest mistakes we do while writing a cover letter, because we covered 1 hour just to know how to write a resume. So at this point, you are pretty frustrated. And what you do is you just take your resume, just write it into sentences and put it as your cover letter. And we are going to see if that's a good approach or not. Okay, so a cover letter, for all those who don't know, is a brief letter that you send along with your resume when you are applying for a job. I would like to know, why do you think a cover letter is important? It displays the seriousness of the candidate. Yes. Yes. Yes, that's correct. So sister said that it helps you to add a lot of things that you've missed in your resume. So you can add a lot more context to it. Yes. It helps to cover your character. Yes, it helps to convince the employer to interview you. Yes. Yeah, so it helps your employer to basically get to know you better. And we'll take one last one. Oh yes, absolutely, because sometimes a lot of people do not attach their cover letters. So let's say if they get hundreds of resumes and they say, okay, we want to see who is the most serious one. They just see 10 cover letters. Probably they're going to see the resumes of those 10 people. So yes, the brother is absolutely right. It might just help the employer to see how serious you were when you were applying for this job. Yep. Oops. Yeah, so cover letter is basically your chance to personalize your application. I think we covered it. So can you move to that? Yeah, we can do it. Okay, so cover letter is like your resume but in a more detailed form. Do we agree with that statement? We agree with that? Okay, the brothers agree with that. Sisters, do we agree with that? No. So yeah, the cover letter is more about the employer. So once again, sisters are right and brothers are wrong. Yes, it's absolutely wrong. So cover letter, again, as I said, cover letter is not your resume. So when you're writing your cover letter, just do not include everything that you have already included in your resume. You do not want a duplicate document. So now let's see what really is a good cover letter all about. Okay, so the first thing, when you're writing a cover letter, I'll show an example as well, but make sure that it is personalized. So let's say you know the name of the hiring manager who is hiring for that role. Write his name. Hey, Dr. Smith. Hey, John. Hey, Abdullah. Write that. Do not write to whomsoever it may concern. No. Please do not do that. Yeah, that sounds very rude. So to whomsoever it may concern, please don't write that. Make sure that it is personalized. Even if you do not know, a lot of times we do not know who is going to read that cover letter, you can write dear hiring manager. And that's absolutely fine. Second point, as Abdulaziz pointed out, it has to be concise and clear. Okay, so we are not gonna become Shakespeare in our next job. So this cover letter is not, it does see that can you write English or not, but you don't have to write thou shall worked in that job. You don't have to write that English. Write English that everyone can understand. Do not write long, lengthy sentences. Don't write paragraphs. Make sure it's concise. Make sure that it is appropriate for the job that you are applying, and make sure that it is logical. So don't start with, hey, I studied over there, and then you talk about you did this job, and then you talk about something that happened in your childhood, and then how it was in your job. So don't do it all of that. Make sure it's very logical. Now, what I've seen is a lot of people who have a lot of experiences, they might have worked multiple jobs. So let's say I have worked in consulting, and then I worked in marketing, and then I worked in sales, and then I worked maybe when I was a student, I was working at Baba Shawarma. For example, I was working at Baba Shawarma. Now, you do not have to include all of that. Just include the points. So let's say you are applying for a consulting job. Make sure that you only include the experience that was there that is related to consulting. Maybe when you were doing your software job, you did something that was relevant to consulting, include that, but do not talk about all the great programs and all the great codes that you have written, because that's not what this job wants you. So make sure it's concise and make sure it's clear. Yeah, demonstrating fit and qualification. So as I said, read the job description, see what the job wants, and then write anything that is relevant to that. One thing that I forgot to mention was a lot of people, a lot of employers are coming to our universities. They are coming to a lot of job programs, job fairs. A lot of these are coming to job fairs, and you get to meet them. So let's say I get to meet the sister sitting over here. She's my wife. But let's say I get to meet the sister sitting over here, and she is the employer. So now I'll note down her name and make sure that when I write my cover letter, I say, I met so-and-so who works at your company, so that the HR who is reading it, they know, okay, this person really went out of his way to meet this person. If you have done a coffee chat with someone, I mean, a lot of times we do e-coffee chats with people. Let's say you talk to a director in a company. Make sure you write his or her name, and then you can include that in the cover letter that you discuss this role with him or her, and then that's what you found about, and that's why you think you are good fit for this job. Okay, so I'm going to use a cover letter that I successfully used for one of my job applications. This cover letter I'll also provide to you in the email later, in the resources that you would provide later. So you don't have to read the cover letter, but I'll provide this to you, but we'll go through some of the key points that are present. So when you are starting your cover letter, as I said, do not start with to whomsoever it may concern. Make sure it starts with dear hiring manager, dear Abdullah, dear whosoever is the hiring manager, whosoever you think would read this. So write his or her name, and then you start with expressing a genuine interest in the role. So you do not write, hey, my friend thinks that I am a good fit for this role, so that's why I'm applying. No, don't write that. Make sure you write something that is very personal, that I have done, let's say, I have 10 years of experience in marketing, and I think I would be a good fit for this role. As I said, if you have had a coffee chat with someone, make sure you mention their name. Can we move on to the next? Okay. Now the second paragraph. So let's say there is a job for consulting, because this is a consulting cover letter. So there is a job in consulting. So if you have some previous experience in that, make sure you write down. So let's say you are applying for a product manager role. So if you have worked as a product analyst, make sure you include those things, that these are the things I worked on. Now some of this stuff would also be present on your resume. So make sure you kind of elaborate that. So you talk about, okay, when I did this, I worked in this part of the project, I worked on these and these softwares, and then whatever. Just make sure that it is much more elaborated than your resume. Again, as I said, avoid simply copying pasting. So do not copy paste your resume, because they already have your resume. They want to know more about maybe one aspect of that. So make sure do not copy paste your resume, and it's like a cover letter is different. Okay, now the third paragraph. So a lot of us are students over here. So if you are a student and you have done, a lot of us, we do not have experience, and I face this as well, but we have done a lot of projects. So sometimes you have done a project that can be used. You think that's, so let's say you have done a project on, let's say you did a project on data analytics, for example. So you did something, you used a lot of Excel tools to do that. You use pivot tables, you use charts and whatnot. So you know this pivot tables and these charts and how to build Excel is going to be very useful in this job. So make sure if you have done a relevant project, even if you are a student, you mention that and you explain what you did and how that is relevant to this role. If you are an experienced professional, so you might, as I said, you might have done multiple jobs. So let's say you did a job and you worked as a software developer, and then you worked as a product developer, and then you worked something else. So make sure whatever is relevant in this second paragraph, you include that. And let's say you are really new, you are first or second year and you are applying for your first co-op. This might not be relevant to you. So do not include random details that I did a drama in my school and all of that. That's not relevant. I know you are super talented, but no, please do not include that on your cover letter. Abdulaziz, the next one. Okay. And then finally, you have to summarize it. So make sure, you summarize it really well. you basically reiterate why you applied for this job and why you think you are a good fit, and then basically just thank them for reading your cover letter, and that's it. Do we have any questions at this point? Yes? No? We're good? Do we have any questions? What is the recommended length of the cover letter? Both the resume and cover letter. The industry standard is make sure it is 1 page. Don't include two or 3 pages of resumes. You might have done a lot of fabulous work over your career. Unless you are applying for the CEO of a company, you might have multiple pages of experiences. But most of the people like me, or maybe Abdulaziz, we just have 1 page of resume, and I think that's enough. For cover letter as well, no one has the time to read, especially in this type of, where everyone is looking at shorts and not even looking at videos. No one has the time to read your cover letter. So make sure it's short, make sure it's concise, and make sure it's up to the point. So 1 page, yeah. We had one more question? No? Okay. Yeah. Yes, sister said a very good point. The cover letters are also scanned by ATS. So all of the tips that Abdulaziz gave on how to write a resume, we have to include all of those while writing our cover letter as well. So include those keywords and all those phrases. Now we are gonna do a demo of, basically Abdulaziz talked about how to build a resume. We talked about ChatGPT a lot. First of all, is there anyone who is not familiar with ChatGPT? I am one of them. Is there anyone else who is not familiar with ChatGPT? Yeah.
So I struggled with cover letters historically. Oh, thank you very much. So I struggled with cover letters because I was never sure really how to talk about the experience that I've had in a way that had the most impact. And I learned a methodology, which is something that I think we should all be familiar with when we're going through the recruitment process, because it's how you should be communicating the experiences that you've had. It's also how you're going to be answering questions in interviews when they ask you a question related to what did you do in this role, right? Or let's say you're in this situation, what would you do, right? It's called the STAR method. And the STAR method stands for situation, task, action, and response, which is similar to the ACR or the CAR method, but it's also kind of different in that it adds additional nuance with regards to, you describe the situation up front, you add that context. It's really a storytelling framework. So when you're in a job interview, what they want to know is, okay, they ask you a question, tell us about a time in which you had to deal with a really difficult coworker and how you navigated that, right? Could be one example of a question they ask you. What you want to do is not just start, okay, yeah, so I guess this is what happened, and then that happened, and then maybe, it kind of went down like this, and then he said that, and I said this. That's not how you want to go about doing it. What you want to do is start with the situation, lay the context. I was working in this firm. This is the industry I was in this role. I had this coworker, right? The task, right? What did you realize you had to do, right? What was the action you took? And then what was the result? And what really helped me in my cover letter was in that third section of my resume, writing an experience that I had that was relevant to the job I'm applying to in that STAR methodology. So when I talk about the skills that I have, so for example, let's say I say I'm a great problem solver. I would then add a little short paragraph talking about how I'm a great problem solver based on a situation that I was in that really drives that point home. And I would say that was one of the ways in which I was able to make myself stand out. And I've seen really strong resumes now being on the other side, having to assess candidates coming in for jobs, and candidates that do that well, that call out the stories, that really address why they have that skill or quality, those are the ones that stand out the most. So STAR method, if it's not here, but STAR method, look it up. I would say it's a really great way to structure not only the responses in your interviews, but to structure the way you communicate why you're a good fit in an organization. Question? Right. Yeah, so the reason, and this is my personal preference, the reason why I use the AC... Sure, yeah. So the question, the comment that the brother made was that there's the ACR method, which we talked about with regards to the resume, and there's STAR method, which we talk about when in context of interviewing and in context of cover letter. And he was just clarifying that that ACR is more relevant to resume and that STAR is more relevant to cover letter, and I agreed with him. And the reason is because in the resume, you want to lead with the action. You want to lead with the action verb, right? Facilitated, created, demonstrated, instigated, led, so on and so forth. You want to start with the action. Whereas inside of your story or your cover letter, you want to start with the context, with the situation that you are in, right? And so you kind of want to change the approach based on the two. When you tell a story, right? When Pixar tells a story or Disney tells a story, they start with once upon a time, right? Nemo is hanging out with his dad, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, right? Nemo disappears. So the situation first, though, is that they're in the bottom of the ocean at the coral reef having a good time, and then the conflict happens. So in a similar way, we want to use storytelling to talk about the situation first and the context first, right? Then the task, the conflict, the thing that you actually the hurdle you had to come over. So that's sort of how I look at it. And I would actually say that if you want to learn how to do storytelling well, take a look at things like Pixar and how they tell stories, or Disney, how they tell stories. We want to learn from, some of the greats with regards to how they approach things. At the end of the day, there's different kinds of knowledge, and it's important for us to have a breadth of knowledge, right? A knowledge of how the best people in every single industry do the things they do, and then take the best parts of it and then make it our own. Right? And so that's sort of what we're trying to do here, inshallah. So now, as part of the next segment, and what we'll do is we'll give... Go ahead, question in the back. Right. For sure. For sure. That's a great point. So the brother mentioned, for those of you who are online, that it's great to use STAR method as a methodology, but what's also really valuable is to reflect on what you would do differently, because you might get asked that in an interview. You could say, okay, based on the question, here's what I did. I used a STAR method, situation, task, action, result, and they might ask you, well, what would you do differently now if you were in that position? Would you do the same things, or would you approach that a little differently? So thank you so much for that. Have an answer to that question. Reflect on the experience that you've had. You never know what you're going to get asked in an interview, especially if you're getting interviewed by me. I might ask some interesting questions and see if you've actually put some thought into things. It's 7:20 now, so what we're going to do is quickly do a demo of the ChatGPT portion. But before that, I know we've been all been sitting for a while, and I know that it is sometimes hard to sit for a long time. We'll give you guys 5 minutes, inshallah, to get a quick break, stretch your legs, walk around, come back, and we'll jump into our demo portion, inshallah. Sound good, everybody? Okay, bismillah. See you guys at 7:25.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yeah, you take your time. Just as you chilling, like you will share with you some thought and some point. It's very important and relevant. First of all, as believers, we always try to take means. Our scholars used to say to us, بالأسباب تفتح الأبواب. Taking means all doors will be open. Sitting back, doing nothing, and then complain, that's not from our perspective and not from our teaching. Let me ask you a question. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Mary, the mother of Jesus, when she was pregnant, He asked her to shake the palm tree. And who will shake it, Shake palm tree, you cannot get the fruit, by shaking that. But even why? She should shake that, Why? Because now, not like before, her situation before, she was dedicated her time for worship and she was responsible for ibadah. That's her duty. But now, because she's pregnant with a baby, now she's required to take means. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach her, now your situation changed and you have to take means for that. توكل على الرحمن في الأمر كله ولا تعجزا بالكسب يوما عن الطلب ألم ترى أن الله أوحى لمريم وهزي إليك الجذعة الساقة الرطب ولو شاء أدنى الجذع من غير هزها ولكن كل شيء له سبب. So this is my first point. You have always take means, and you never know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open doors. So do not give up. Second point, which is really important, that you have to have belief. What was written for you, it will never miss you. What was written for others, it will never come to you. So do not really be frustrated if something never that you gain. So, oh, I'm fit for that. Okay, fit for that was not written for you. And you have to know if all Ummah gathered to benefit you with something that Allah never wrote for you, they will never benefit you. And the opposite as well, if they gather to harm you with something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never wrote for you, they will never harm you. So then I say, what? Oh, that's a discrimination, and my name is Mohammad, let me change my name. They didn't accept my resume. No, there are many Mohammad that are CEO. Like, there are many Mohammad that are, big managers. So they're not worried about that. It's not because of your name or not that you're not guaranteed a job for you. The Prophet ﷺ swear by Allah and said, Wallahi, لن تموت نفس حتى تستوفي رزقها. By Allah, no soul shall die until completed its provision. You have to believe in that. Your share will come, and inshallah you will be granted for that. So that's one thing I want to share with you. Also, there are some ideas that you can do. Maybe the time now after you gain some experience to have your own business. That's something either you have to think of it. Be your own boss. It's not that easy. Some people think, oh, I'm going to be my own boss, so I can sleep when the time I want and I can relax. No. You're going to work even actually harder, in order to secure your income and have, your name there in the market. So that's something you can think of it. Think of a franchise. That's another option. It doesn't have to be a franchise like a big company. There are some small companies that you do that. And by the way, we are going to offer a workshop how you can start your own franchise. Yes, inshallah. And even how you can make your own be your own boss. And they're gonna make some of those lectures, and I'm in contact of some people. Inshallah, we're gonna present it soon, bi-idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even we bring an organization called Hub. That's in the medical field as well. They will help how you can job and even how you can continue your career in that. So inshallah, we are going to contact you, bi-idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and going to announce sooner. We approaching different ways. We want our community to be on the top, inshallah, and having their strength, bi-idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's one of our goals. And we try to reach bi-idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah bless you all. Time now to start.
Perfect. So inshallah we'll be resuming our workshop. So So the next component, the next section of our workshop is going to be just a bit more of a demo. It's sort of how we would go about using ChatGPT in order to help you build your resume, right? Really to help you, skim through your job description and find those keywords and really just have it build out your bullet points for you. So we're going to be using an example. So just as a caveat, this works with ChatGPT. You can use Gemini, which is Google's LLM or model, or any other one that you choose. ChatGPT is probably the most accessible version. So is Google's Gemini, but either one works. And they're really powerful, really great tools where you can just sort of throw in, copy and paste an entire job description and have it do the heavy lifting for you. So just quick question, we asked this earlier. Everyone here knows what ChatGPT is? Can I get a raise of hands? Everyone knows what ChatGPT is? Who's used ChatGPT? Yeah, okay, so about 50, maybe just over 50% of the group. Okay, which is great, maybe 60%, perfect, yeah. You made a rap about ChatGPT or using ChatGPT? For using it. It's about it, okay, interesting. Maybe we'll get you to share that at the end. So, just quickly, for the sake of this demo, we're going to assume that you already have some sort of working form of a resume. Doesn't have to be perfect, just something to start off with, right? So you've built some sort of a resume, you've captured some information about work experience that you have and that, that might be relevant to what you're looking to do. And we're going to take that existing resume, we're going to go into ChatGPT, we're going to give it some useful information, some context about the job that we're applying to, and we're going to use it to develop the content, right? To adapt the content, optimize the content of our resume so that we can basically use that to apply and have a better chance of succeeding with our application. Yeah, free version, inshallah. So I'll use the free version of ChatGPT. But I would honestly suggest sometimes it's worthwhile to invest in tools. So if you do want to buy the non-free version, it's about $30 a month, I think, and you can use it for 1 month and use it to build your resume. But the free version works just as well. It's a great tool, and I would highly suggest it. So we're actually going to be using my resume for this. So my current resume, and we're going to basically be going through how I would take my resume and maybe apply to a job that I might be interested in, and then you can see sort of how I would go about doing that. Go ahead. yeah, $30, start cutting back on coffee, maybe Netflix, watch less movies and stuff like that, and inshallah, you'll be able to get a job. Maybe that'll be the roadblock, the way to get past that. So some of the resources that we've assembled that are going to help you, that we're going to share with you after, we have a step-by-step guide with some custom prompts, which basically you can just take the prompts that we've made and you can just throw it into ChatGPT and then give it the information like a job description, like some information about the company, and then go through the process. We also have resume and cover letter templates. So if you don't know where to start or how to structure or build a format, use our template and fill your information in there, and you're already more than 60-70% of the way through. And there's other resources like I mentioned, like for example, action verbs. We have a Harvard resource for how to write a cover letter and a resume, and some more. As much as we can sort of continue to sort of find and throw in, we'll continue to throw in. And we also, someone mentioned AI tools to help you find keywords. There are some good free softwares out there, so we'll maybe try our best, inshallah, to find some of those and throw them in as well. Let's dive in. So, essentially, this is the document that we're going to provide you with. You're going to have access to this after the presentation is over. And what this essentially is how to use ChatGPT to rewrite your resume in 10 prompts. So again, like I mentioned, this assumes that you already have a resume that is at a baseline has information about your work experience. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that resume and we're going to tailor it to a specific job. So in my instance, my background is innovation consulting. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking my resume and adapting it to a role that I thought was somewhat similar, or a role that I might be interested in applying to that is in my industry. So I'm a consultant, and this role is also for another consultant position in in a similar industry vertical. So I'm going to be going from consulting into a banking job, but again, in the same role, which is innovation consulting. And I'll show you what that would look like. And again, it's very generic. We're live streaming, so to my employer, I'm not looking to switch jobs. I'm simply doing this for demonstrative purposes. So, Bismillah. So ChatGPT is here. Has anyone here? So for those who haven't used ChatGPT, this is essentially what it looks like. I'm going to be switching over to the ChatGPT 3.5 to essentially show you what it would look like if you were using the free version of ChatGPT. I do have the ChatGPT 4.0, but I'm not going to be using that today. So the first thing that I would want to do with this is basically go into my ChatGPT and go into my document and give it a priming prompt. Now, what a priming prompt does, and it's not necessarily called the priming prompt, the initial thing with ChatGPT is it's going to work as well as the instructions you give it. I had a couple nods here earlier, so I'm assuming we have people who are experts in that field. But basically, feel free to correct me, but ChatGPT works as well as the instructions that you give it. So the more detailed instructions you give it, the more context you give it, the more specific you are, the better of an output it's going to give to you. So the first prompt I'm going to use is basically just priming it. I'm just telling ChatGPT, I need your help, right? You're going to act as a professional resume writer, skilled in presenting information concisely, and you're basically going to help me position myself as a good fit for the company. So I'll take this prompt, I'll copy it, I'll go into ChatGPT, and that'll be the first thing that I tell it. That's what I need you to do for me. Understood. I got it. I'm going to help you with that. The second thing we're going to do, right, is we're going to give it a job description of a job that we're interested in applying to. We're going to ask it to read it carefully, and we're going to tell it that, listen, you need to hold on to this information because we're going to ask you to use this information to make our resume that we'll give you later a bit more relevant. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take this beginning part of the prompt, we're going to copy it, we're going to throw it into ChatGPT, and then I'm going to go quickly over to a job that I found. And so this is the job. It's a senior consultant enterprise innovation job. What I'm going to do is really easily, I'm going to take the job description and I'm going to copy the entire thing all the way to the bottom along with the skills that they need. Go to ChatGPT, type in job description, put it in the bottom, and what I'm quickly going to do, because if you notice that it wasn't able to, is I'm going to add the name of the actual job itself. Because the more information you give to the GPT, to the program, the more information it's going to be able to provide you. And then I click enter, and it tells me, okay, I've understood. I understand the job description. Now at this point, what you can do is you can ask it to find keywords for you that are going to help you to optimize the ATS software. The original intent behind this is actually to just have it to build your resume bullet points itself. But at this point, feel free. Go ahead, ask it. Hey, if you want it to just find keywords for you, tell it, hey, find some keywords for me, and it'll do that for you, right? What I like to do, this is an additional step, you don't have to do this, is you can basically add even more information to give it that much more context. So I like to add more information about the company in general. So here I have some quick facts about CIBC that I pulled up. It's on their website, right? Who we are, what our strategy is, our business units that we have, you know what I mean? Communities. So I want to take this information that I've copied and also just give it to ChatGPT, because the more information it has, the better, right? It's not going to really harm us. So thanks for providing additional context about ChatGPT. So the creative process, and this is essentially the process of actually now generating the parts of your resume that you want it to. So what you're going to do now is tell ChatGPT, I'm going to give you my resume. But before I give you my resume, here's what I want you to do with it. I want you to rewrite each one of my experiences that I provide to you in 3 to 5 bullet points in a results-driven achievement statement using the ACR method, which I've called that right here, using the action context result method. So I'm specifying that I would like you to edit my resume, and I'm telling it exactly how I would like it to do that. If I wanted to, I could add more detail around what type of action verbs or how I want it, right? But here I've said specifically action context result. It's going to know how to build my bullet points for me based on this. So what I'll do here is I'll copy this statement right here, go into ChatGPT, type that in, boom. Okay, now it's ready for me to dump in my resume. So here's my resume here. So if you have a paid version of ChatGPT, and I'll see if this works here, typically you can actually just drag in your resume and you can't do it with a non-paid. So if you have the paid version, you can actually just drag in your PDF completely and it will do it for you. But if not, you just have to copy and paste things, which just makes things take a little bit longer. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to copy my resume, I'm going to paste it in, I'm going to add my name, I'm going to make sure that at a high level, the sections have some space in between them so it knows where my sections start, where my sections end. And I'm going to give it my resume. And I've told it to redo all of our bullet points. So take a look. It's actually giving me all the bullet points that I have in my resume, tailoring it to the job description that I've given it, as well as the information about the company. Now, don't trust ChatGPT to do a perfect job, right? It can make mistakes. It's your job as the manager of ChatGPT, right? So think about it this way. This is your analyst. This is your employee. This does work for you. But your job, before this goes in front of a client, is to ensure that the quality is there and ensure that things look right the way that they're supposed to. If the ChatGPT is making stuff up or adding in some details that don't exist or making up things that you've done, feel free to go in and correct it. But this is a good starting point for you, right? This is a tool that's going to get you from 1 to 50, so you can take it from 50 over to 100. And then all you want to do at this point is take these bullet points, go into your resume, right? And then insert them. So for example, I'll insert these points to my work, right here where it was originally, right? And I'll be able to see the differences. What changed? What did ChatGPT call out that I didn't call out earlier? And I'll see, are there keywords here that are added in that weren't before? And I'll also be able to go in and say, well, you know what? There are keywords that are still missing, right? Another thing about ChatGPT is that it doesn't do a perfect job up front. Sometimes you have to ask it to do something over and over and over again for it to actually do it the way you want it to. And maybe you have to change your prompt. Maybe you have to give it some more context and information. Maybe you have to ask it for specific words that you want it to include. So I can tell it to include, add these specific skills, call out, these specific keywords, or give me a bunch of keywords, now add these in, right? So I can say, find me keywords from the job description and list them for me. And then it'll give me that information. And now what I can do is I can take those keywords. I can say, take these keywords and build them into my resume. And it will do that. So the more that you use the ChatGPT and the more that you tell it to do, the better job it will do at sort of massaging those new points into your resume. So it's only as good as the prompts you give it. It's a great tool as a starting point. You can use it to find keywords and also to rewrite your entire resume. I wouldn't suggest relying on it for the entire process. It really is an employee of yours, a tool for you to use to get you to a good point. And then add in your own flavor. Add in your own personality and make sure that it's not just making things up. But that's how we would go about using ChatGPT to really build in your resume. Go ahead. So we're going to share with you the prompts that we use. So this file here we'll share with you. And this actually has prompts that not only take you to this point, but they also have additional questions like, what are the most common areas of expertise for the role, right? And you can also start using this one thread to start prepping you for the interview. You can start asking it, what are some interview questions that I might get asked considering the role and the job that I'm doing? This tutorial right here, no, unfortunately, this won't be shared, but we have the entire build a resume with ChatGPT step by step. But what we can do perhaps is we can go through this again and I can add in screenshots of everything that I've done with a little bit of a description of how I did it, and maybe that can, inshallah, be a bit more help to you all. No problem. So we'll hop back in. Right. And I'll pass it back to Fazal.
Okay, so thank you so much, Abdulaziz, for that. So by the way, whatever he said for resume, we can use the same process in ChatGPT to write a cover letter. So just paste in a normal cover letter, the one that I'm gonna provide. Paste that if you want, or any other cover letter that you have, and then it's gonna do the same thing that Abdulaziz just showed us. Okay, so now we have had a lot of in India we call it gyan. A lot of knowledge we have had. Now we are going to I'm going to tell a little bit of story. So the story begins, as I said, I came to Canada in September 2021. How many of you have faced challenges while getting a job? Okay, all of them. Okay, now I'm going to go on a limb and say, I never faced issues when I came to Canada and in finding jobs. You know, as soon as I landed, 1 month into Canada, someone actually reached out to me. Hey, I'm going to give you a job. I said, MashaAllah, I'm so talented. I knew I was talented, but this talented, I knew I was talented. Anyway, so this person reached out to me and they said that they wanted to give me a job. And I was like, yeah, I'm not even looking for a job, but why not? Extra money never harmed anybody. So I was like, okay, let's give a job. So he said, he sends me something. He says, like, this is the job, and you have to apply for it. I was like, yeah, inshallah, I'll apply for it. He says, why don't you they said, send me your resume. I sent a basic resume, like, it was so bad that I think even ChatGPT can do nothing with that resume. But that was my resume when I came to Canada, and I sent it. MashaAllah, I got the interview as well. So I got the interview, and he said, I'm not free. I don't have the time for a Zoom call. Why don't we do it over Telegram? I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll download Telegram and give an interview. So mashallah, I gave an interview, I think at 10 o'clock in the night, but I was so new to Canada, I thought, okay, this is how things happen in Canada. They take interview in the nights. I was like, sure, I gave my interview over Telegram, and mashallah, the next day, even before Fajr, I got the job. So I don't know what wazifa or what dua I made, but I got the job as soon as I applied for it, as soon as I completed my interview. And then I reached out to one of my good friends who's sitting over here. I said, do you think this job makes sense? I was like, let me go through it. It kind of didn't. Thank God he stopped me. It was a scam. So I fell for it. And then a lot of my friends fell for it. And today we are going to cover, because this is so personal to me, I thought in this workshop, I'm going to include that as well. So I was not talented when I came to Canada. It was a hard reality check. That I'm not even talented now, but still that was a good reality check for me. So now we are going to just dive into how do you spot a scam. So the only thing that is worse than not having a job in Canada is having a scam job in Canada. Okay, exactly, do we agree with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, how many of you have fell for a scam?
One of my friends lost his job because of scam.
Ooh.
He got a job, but it was a scam. He resigned from his own job. He was jobless.
Okay.
Yeah, later on he
Yeah.
got another job. Yeah, in Canada.
Yeah, we have a brother his friend lost his job because he fell for a scam job. Do we have anyone else who fell for a scam? No? Okay, so maybe there are people online who fell for a scam. Yeah, for future.
Don't resign until you know it's real.
Yes, don't resign unless you don't start the other job, okay? So, okay, can we start? Okay, so if you receive an offer for a job that you never applied for, you are not talented, that is a scam. So maybe you are the most talented person in Canada, you are like gold medalist in your country and gold medalist in Western and everything, but no, if you have not applied for the job, most probably 99.999% it's a scam, okay? Second point. Okay, again, personal. They're not gonna say I'm gonna have a Zoom interview or I'm gonna have a face-to-face interview. We're gonna do it over WhatsApp, okay? We're gonna do it over Telegram. We are gonna do it over call. So don't fall for that. Call, maybe sometimes recruiters do reach out to you on call, but then that's through when you have exchanged emails with them, okay? So calls I would still say, but WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, no. Most probably it's a scam. Third one, okay, they would provide you so much money that not even a good job, like not properly a full-time job would not provide you. So they're gonna provide you $50 an hour, $600 per week, all of those things, probably a scam, okay? And then the last one is they are gonna,
Not probably. It is.
yeah, it is a scam. And the last one, make sure that if they say you have to be urgent, you have to complete it within 24 hours, send it to me in 15 minutes, otherwise I'm gonna give the job to someone else. That is a scam. A normal job, they are gonna give you 15 days at least to go through everything. And when you reach out to the, so this has happened to me. So I got a genuine job this time, alhamdulillah. And then I reached out to them that I was near the deadline, but I needed some more time to reconsider. So they'll happily give you time to reconsider. You can ask them that I need probably a week more to go through it. Or if you're, let's say you're interviewing between two jobs, you don't have to tell them that I'm waiting for the another employee to come back to me, but you can say like, I'm waiting for, I just have to go through it again. Or I didn't find time to read through each and everything, so I need to go through it again. And they'll be happy to provide you like 7 more days to do it. So if it's urgent, if they're saying you're gonna have to do it within 24 hours, complete it by tonight, otherwise you'll not get the job, it's probably a scam, okay? So now we are gonna play a game that's called, Is This a Scam? Okay? Sorry, we have a question.
Yeah, so just wanted to add one more point to that. Anytime an employer or so-called employer asks you for money before you start working, that's a scam. So I've heard a lot of times they say that, okay, we're offering you the job, and we need to send you a laptop or we need to send you a device, and they're asking for the cost of shipping for that. So we're gonna send it to you, but you have to pay the shipping for it. So anytime that happens, no employer ever asks for the shipping cost of sending the equipment. So that's a scam as well.
Thank you so much, brother, for that. So yeah, make sure that you don't fall for that. We have one more point. So it looks like so many personal experiences over here.
I received the email yesterday. So there are some companies that they call themselves a HR company or like some recruitment firms. They're basically resume farmers. So what they do, they just take some resume and they sell it to third party for marketing and for selling you stuff, or probably for scams as well. So what I do is like I received an email and I did not apply for that job, but it was very relevant to my job. Somewhere they got my resume, or somewhere they got my number from. I checked their Google reviews, and on the reviews I found that these guys are resume farmers basically. So yeah, that's one of the tips.
Thank you so much. So a new word learned, resume farmer. Abdulaziz, do you do resume farming? No? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So we have one more. It's better to avoid.
At the end of the day, like it doesn't really know who you are. It just kind of thinks it's gibberish numbers. The way that ChatGPT works is it's a probability model. So it's just giving you information, like even when it gives you words or sentences, it's guessing what word has to come after the next word based on probability. So really, I mean, it's not going to give this information to anyone later on or be able to save it in any way. In the ChatGPT 4.0, it can have a memory. You can have it save information. But typically speaking, when you have the premium version, it's secure, meaning that information isn't going anywhere else. If you're really paranoid, don't do it. I'm the type of person, typically speaking, I wouldn't. I think here when I was doing it, I did just throw it in. But I don't know, maybe I'll get a job from someone at OpenAI. So.
Okay, so let's, can you just click once? Okay, so we have this job over here, mashallah, paying $25 per hour. Do we think it's a scam? Very professional, yes. So everything looks very professional. Raise of hands who think it's not a scam. So, so raise. Is this not a scam? It's a scam. Okay, how many think it is a scam? Okay, so almost everyone thinks it's a scam. Yes, it's a scam. Now I'm just gonna dissect through it why this is a scam, and I mean maybe it would be helpful for a lot of us. Okay. Okay, so the first thing, you are gonna find these kind of jobs posted on immigrants groups or student group or any of these. So if you are an international student, you are their prime target. Okay, so make sure please you do not fall for these. Next one. Okay, so data entry, customer service, payroll clerk, administrative assistant, all of these scams. And I think one of them is travel something as well, travel analyst or something. That's also a scam. So if you see any of these, they do not change the format. So they do not know how to use ChatGPT yet. So they just post it in this format, and I mean, people fall for it sadly. So if you see any of this, it's a scam. Okay. Mashallah, they pay very well. So they're going to pay you $25 per hour. For training, they're going to pay you $15 per hour. But no, all of this is a scam. Someone would pay you $600 per week. Scam. Now, they are going to target the most vulnerable groups. So they're going to target international students. They're going to target elders. They're going to target people with disabilities. They are going to target working moms and all of these people. So if you think that no one is going to, I mean, just think, if let's say, I mean, leave emotion out of it and just think, if you are an employer, do you want someone who is fit for the job, or do you want someone who has, let's say, other responsibilities? What do you think? Fit for the job, yeah? You want someone who is fit for the job, who can do the job best. You don't want someone who is, let's say, who has some other issues to deal with, right? So they always target the most vulnerable population because they know these are the people that are not getting the job and they are searching for a job. Excellent benefits, mashallah. I don't know any company that provides these kind of benefits that these scammers provide. So they provide 5 days work in a week, pretty standard. So they also provide medical, vision, life. I don't know, is it insurance or what? They provide a life. Yeah. So, sorry? Yeah, how can we apply? Yeah, we'll come to that. Okay, and can we come to the next one? Okay, how can we apply? We can either reach out to them on Facebook Messenger. Okay, we can contact them with a random number. Make sure that when you will Google these numbers, either you would see bogus, names attached to them, or some of them might even have a real, like if you are gonna Google this number, maybe I don't know, I haven't done it, but if you do it, you are gonna find that there is an actual HR who is behind this. Okay, so but all of them are scammers. Okay, another thing that I forgot to mention. Can we go back? Okay, so in Indians, so I'm an Indian, so that's why I took the screenshot from there. From Indians in Toronto, why is Rosa Queen Knight Cantu? I don't know that's an Indian name or not. So I know India is very diverse, but I don't think foreigners want to come in. So you won't find, if you see, let's say you are in Arabs in London group and you see a person with a very English name, yeah, Brittany something. So if they are writing something, most probably it's a scam. Make sure that you go. So how do you spot a scammer? You see their profile. Make sure you go to when you click on their profile picture, it would be a very new profile picture, and there would be no likes, no comments, or there would be a comment from, let's say, a random guy saying nice pic or something. So it's not a genuine profile. Make sure you please do not fall for a scam. That's all we had from for today. I hope you found it beneficial. Some of it, I think it's really going to be helpful. And the last part was just very personal to me. And this is the reason I wanted to do the workshop. So, and first of all, thank you so much, Abdul Aziz. He did almost all the heavy lifting. And thank you so much, Imam Sheikh, for helping us organize this and giving us a chance to interact with the community. Thank you so much, everyone, for being present here even when it was raining outside. So thank you so much.
A few last things. Thank you, Fazal. A few last things. Jazakumullah khair. So we'll be able to improve, inshallah, the kinds of workshops that we provide based on the information you provide us. So feel free to use the QR code, fill out a survey form. I believe there's a section there where you can tell us. I believe there's a section there on the QR. If you use the QR code on the form, you can tell us how we did today, and if we did horribly, please tell us so we can improve for next time. But you can also tell us what type of workshops you would like to see from us in the future. So is it networking skills, right? Is it how to get through the interview and go through the interview process and answer those questions like we did earlier? Is it some other part of professional skills, right? Storytelling, for example, and public speaking. Yeah, you can fill it out multiple times. We'll just have another entry.
If you have a referral job, like let's say,
Right. So I can speak to a couple companies I know, and then I'll let Fazl talk about it with some of his experience. At the organization that I work with, if someone gets a referral, they automatically get an interview. So at my firm, whenever when I know that is competent for the job and they ask me for a referral, I'll give it to them. Now, here's the thing about referrals, though. If you're in a position to give to someone, their ability to do the job well, that you believe they're competent, they have the character, and they would be committed to the job. But most organizations that I've heard of, large organizations, when someone refers you, you kind of get the interview, the first screening interview, you get through that first phase. So that's typically what I've heard. I wouldn't say it's a rule of thumb, but I would say that it's really common that when you get a referral.
before using the ATS,
I know for some larger firms, and I'll let Fazl comment on maybe Deloitte, because I think he's worked there in the past. Some of these larger firms, it's still the case that if you get an internal referral, you do get an interview, at least the first interview, because some of these large organizations, it's like 3 interviews. So there's a screening interview, and then there's usually sort of a case-based interview, a behavioral interview with the partner, with a manager. So at most firms that I've heard of, that referral gets you to a screening interview, which is still very preliminary.
Thank you, Abdulaziz, for that. Just to add on to that, so it's good that you get a referral, but let's say you are getting a referral from a close friend. So let's say if I'm getting a referral from my friend, I would also need to ask him that, can you reach out to the hiring manager, or if you could tell me the name of the hiring manager so that I could reach out to them on LinkedIn. So do that as well. I know interviewing and applying for jobs, this is a different topic. We did not cater to it today because we knew it's going to take another 1 hour. So we didn't do it today, but if you put it in the in the feedback that you want a session for that, inshallah we'll do it in another 2 or 3 months. So this is the QR code. Everyone please take out your mobiles and scan them. The good thing about giving us a review would be you'll also get to download everything that we showed today at the end of it. So we'll take questions. Oh no, no. Yeah. Yeah. So I think.
So if somebody have not registered, please go. The link is still active. I just checked now. Go and register, so we're gonna have your email.
Yeah. Can you put that poster? I have the poster with me. I can share it. Yep. Can I take it? So this is the link for registering. We have already finished the workshop, but if you register, we're going to have your email ID. So just in case we need to contact you, or if you want to contact us. So You could just. Yeah. So, as a small thank you gift from us, we also have Ahmed, who is mashallah, who has volunteered to take pictures. So, if you want to get your LinkedIn profile picture updated, sorry. Okay, it looks like this QR code is not working. I have to. Will if you could just write out your email IDs, if someone has not. Yeah. Yeah, go to the London Muslim Mosque Facebook page. Over there, you will find the post for this session. In the end of it, there is a link to register. So if you can do that. Now, for all the people who have done both the steps, who have registered and have also provided us a review for today, if you could please, and if you want to take a picture taken for your LinkedIn, this is not a, we're not gonna take like nice pictures with your friends and all, but this is just gonna be a strictly professional headshot. So if anyone needs to get their LinkedIn profile pictures taken, you can move on that side, and Ahmed is inshallah gonna help you with that. We can also spend this time doing Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, we'll be happy to take.
So, if we have to make only one page of resume, how many experience we should add? Like if we have 5 to 6 experience. And one more thing, like I'm a student and I have an experience in the same field where I'm applying right now, but it's back in my different country. So is it gonna be like difficult for me to get that job because I'm not working for that role or any position right now as a student?
That's a great question. So what I'll say is this. I will say on the first question, I would say if you have a lot of work experience, I would say quality over quantity. What you want to do is zoom in on the specific work experience that you have that is going to be the most relevant and go into the most detail with it. So for me, what that looks like is the work experience that's closest to the job I'm looking to go into is typically where I have the most relevant experience. So I'll usually have 3 bullet points on the most recent work experience, and then maybe 2 for each work experience previous. And I'll usually do the last 3 or 4 employers, but nothing more than that. Because you really want to make sure that you're not exhausting them with information that isn't relevant. Your second question was whether that experience is relevant in Canada. It definitely is. We live in a very globalized world, and it's really up to you to sort of position and frame your experience in a way that they're going to know is relevant. How you do that is obviously through understanding the job description, writing things in their language, but definitely we have a lot of people, like for example Fazal and other friends that we have who are international, who've come with a lot of international experience and landed jobs at really great firms, multinational firms, places like Deloitte, places like McCain, and they've been able to do so with that previous work experience. So it's definitely not a handicap, it's definitely an asset, and all the hard work you've put in is definitely gonna, inshallah, be able to be paid forward in the resume that you build. Well, yeah. Cool. Any other questions here? Yeah? Awesome.
So I have a question. Might get a little controversial. So there's a thing called that is going on right now in London itself. People are giving referrals to the people that they know, regardless if they are eligible or not. So this is something called like a, how do I say it? Called nepotism, right? People from, I'm from India. I know this very well because I have been seeing people from one specific state referring to people who are that from that very specific state. So what is happening is the jobs are just revolving around certain type of people, certain set of people that is being referred and getting referral again and again, to the point that where people are arriving from India here and making the settings back from India itself. That I am coming here. Can you look set me for a job in Walmart? So Walmart, you can go ahead and see it for Dollarama, No Frills, Low Loss Company, all of the low loss companies. So retail is like completely filled with certain set of people that is referring to these guys, and people like outsiders like me who do not have any connections are like just like you can wither and die. They don't care. So do you not think that referrals is like an enabler of nepotism, because you're just referring to your buddies and the jobs being revolving around buddies? So how do you get past this very hurdle of not getting referred? Because as you know, if someone is like a 100% fit for a job and does not have a referral, he will not be getting a job. Otherwise, like people, I should not be using these words, but yeah, people are willing to like hire a retard if this person is referred. So that's why I've seen people with zero experience and are getting jobs, and people with retail experience, worked in retail, are not getting jobs. So how do you think, like, what would you suggest? How do we get past this?
I think I can take that question. So first of all, I mean, as Sheikh said, your risk lies in Allah's hand, right? So you are gonna get that risk no matter what. Now the second part of that question, how do you? I mean, I'm not gonna comment on referral or is it a good thing or bad, but you said how do you build that network if you are an outsider? I was an outsider in London. The way I got my first internship was I used to come to the mosque. I met someone who used to work at that company. So we have this mosque. Come here regularly. You'll find so many people. They are gonna be ready to help you. So I mean, you build your. I mean, what if they have their own circle? Doesn't matter. You come to the mosque. You're gonna have a circle of your own. So I mean, we are gonna inshallah start with that.
Jazakallah khairan. As an Indian remark, again, try your best and do not set yourself for failure. Do not write wrong information in your CV, and it might pass the first time, but if they're being caught, that will be really something that actually might stop great opportunity for you. Be honest and do not say some assumption in your mind, because of my color, my background, my accent, I'm not gonna get job. That's wrong. People of color, people of different accent, they have really good jobs, so do not be like that. Yes, it might be some challenges, like brother will mention, will be overqualified. That's one of the excuses nowadays and problems. You might actually not write information about you that shows that yes, you're overqualified if you are in dire need of that job. Actually, maybe you don't put your PhD information there, and that's fine. That's not lying. You put your master. You don't want to be there because you're gonna be paid based on that. So you have to be smart and you have to find connections. And back home they call it wasta. Here they call it connection. There's nothing wrong with this. Yes, and as a community, we'll help one another. We'll help you to find a connection. That's why we are here working together. There's nothing wrong with this. And we want to do that. And if you have any connection, come forward. Say, I have that, place, and I have this work, and we want to do this. Inshallah, bi'idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will try, to do that. Connect, those people looking for a job, and those are actually they have a place or they have jobs, and as a community support each other. At the end, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always for all His blessing. And on your behalf, we'd like to thank our presenters today. May Allah bless them for all what they have done, and we even expect more inshallah coming from them. Inshallah, Brother Faisal, Brother Abdulaziz, may Allah bless you. Jazakumullah khairan. We cannot thank you enough, but we'll say Jazakumullahu khairan. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum.